Hello, this is Jules. This is a simple definition of terms video in which I explain the term center of gravity, or being centered in a stage of development. This is a foundational concept that I expect to use a fair bit in future videos. It applies to any kind of development: consciousness development, spiritual development, development of a skill, etc. Your center of gravity in any kind of development is just another way of saying what stage you're at. It's your current position on that path of development. It feels normal. It's your current comfort zone or your headquarters. I like the term center of gravity because there's a kind of pull to it. It can exert a compelling force on other parts of you that are lagging behind, causing you to want to catch them up to your current center of gravity. It can also have a kind of inertia which can make progressing beyond it challenging. When I use the term center of gravity, or I refer to being centered within a stage, I'm usually referring to an overall center of gravity in consciousness progression, which is why I used the spiral colors for this visual aid. Your overall center of gravity in consciousness progression determines things like your worldview, what you consider to be real and how you believe reality works, your identity, who and what you believe you are, how you think you work, and your values, what you believe is important, as well as the problems you're currently tending to face in your life. In other words, the type of development work that you're doing. But a person is centered within a stage, but not contained by it. You aren't usually only doing work within your current stage. There's usually a range where you're still actively doing some work from a little behind your current center of gravity, and you're getting some previews of the next stage. A person's range usually spans about a total of 2 stages. So if you're smack in the middle of a stage, your range will roughly fall to like 25% in the previous stage, 50% in your current stage, and 25% in the next stage. And what I mean by that is your life, like how you are experiencing your life and the kinds of problems you're facing, the kinds of development you're doing, how you view the world, all of that tends to be kind of 25% behind where you're at, about 50% right where you're at, and about 25% a little ahead of where you're at. And as you progress, your center of gravity moves along the path of development, and so does your range. So at some point, you'll end up half in, half out of the next stage, and this can feel pretty confusing, especially since each stage in some manner rebels against the previous stage. So having one foot in each of 2 stages can feel like you don't know what to think. You probably also have different developmental lines in different stages. So here I'm showing like a visualization of your overall consciousness progression path, but that path is made up of developmental lines. And these developmental lines can be at different stages. I mentioned this in my lines of development video, which I'll link below in the description box. So in your overall consciousness progression, you'll probably have some lines that are behind your current center of gravity, and you may also have a few lines that are ahead. Your center of gravity is not necessarily a straight average of all of your developmental lines, though. Some lines have a heavier weight and a stronger pull on your center of gravity, like the spiritual intelligence line, which I define as including your concept of reality, what is real and how it works, and your concept of yourself, what and who you are and how you work. That line, the spiritual intelligence line, tends to have a stronger effect on your overall experience of your center of gravity and consciousness progression. And then some lines tend to have less weight in affecting your center of gravity, like skill lines, cooking, calisthenics, singing, etc., will have less of an effect on your overall experience of your center of gravity and consciousness progression. Although all developmental lines still have some effect. If you're hyper focused on one skill, it can have the effect of dragging the rest of you along with it. I explained this in the Path of Mastery video, which I will also link below. You can also use the term center of gravity to refer to any specific line of development. So you can talk about having a center of gravity in an area of your life, or in a specific intelligence, or in a specific skill. And the Path of Mastery video also explains how to apply spiral dynamics to a specific developmental line, if you're curious about that. And the same rules apply when you're talking about a center of gravity on a specific line of development. Your center of gravity is your current normal on that developmental line, but you still may be doing some prior work on it, and you may be getting some previews of your next stage on it. And every developmental line is also fractal. So whatever developmental line you're talking about can have sublines that are themselves at different stages, exerting different pulls on the center of gravity on that line of development, on the parent line of development. And these sublines can also have different weights, some of them exerting more pull than others on the overall line of development. So I hope that was helpful. As usual, feel free to post any questions you have in the comment section. And until next time, be well.